own communities, some here in the United States, racism, poverty, we have all of those, extremism in some places, but our students abroad are facing them probably in a more intense way. They may be coming directly from post-conflict societies or societies that are teetering on the edge of conflict. So as they recited this list of challenges that they faced, they also were talking about how they thought they could come forward in bringing solutions, and you'll hear that from our two Rotary scholars later. The video ends with one of the students saying that the gift that they bring to the world is the gift of peace building. Peace building is at the core of everything we do, whether it's economic development or human rights. These are all things that contribute to peace building in different ways, and that's why it takes a whole tree of programs to get to peace. And each of you has a gift of peace building to offer the world. That's why you're here today. Each of you is here because you're looking for new solutions to problems that you've watched develop over time. So you've joined Rotary, or you've come to study here, or you're studying elsewhere and you're taking advantage of this opportunity today, or you're volunteering in the community. But for whatever reason, you've chosen to be part of the solution and not just to talk about the problems. Maybe we'll go back to it again, we'll see. And one of the things you want to learn is how to overcome all of the barriers, the boundaries, the borders that we face. They may be geographic, right here on our own border. They may be economic. How do you talk to someone who has a very different economic view of the world than you do? They may be racial, and these days they may be political. But when working to address a problem, it's always a great idea, instead of focusing on the problem, to picture the world that you want to get to, the world as you want it to be. This is something that a very famous peace scholar called John Paul Lederach calls your moral imagination. Do you have the power, the creativity, the daring to picture the world as you want it to be? So for a moment, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, do, because somehow it gets you out of the reality of right now. Close your eyes or leave them open and imagine what a world of peace looks like. What visually do you see in front of you in a world of peace? What do you hear? What do you smell or not smell? What do you feel? And that's the most important part of it. What do you feel? I want you in the same breath to think about what a world where justice reigns looks like. Not what's different from today, but what does that moment look like when you're surrounded by justice? What do you hear? What can you touch? And what do you feel? And if we have some very courageous people in the audience, if you would raise your hand and tell me what peace looked like to you, or felt like, or sounded like. Our interactor, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm also close listening, but I saw like a bunch of children laughing in the street playing.
Can you stand up and say just a little louder, please? I invite you to stand up and tell us who you are if you're going to answer, if you want to.
So my name's Ray Ray, and I'm a student at UC High, and I really want to go to the school. So I see like children, their parents, and people being really happy and feeling the sun on their face, and really not knowing what unrest looks like, just knowing peace, and having that happy sunshine in their heart and on their face. And I smell, like, for some reason I smell like baguettes, because my happy place is pears. And I didn't smell all of the like bombs and bad stuff that's going on in the world right now, but like we were talking about earlier, people are always talking about the problem and not the solution. So I saw the solution without the problem.
Right. People who don't know unrest in their hearts. It's a beautiful vision, isn't it? Someone else? Would anyone care to tell us what justice felt like? For me, justice was a sense of calm, a release from the anxiety of not knowing who's first, or who something belongs to, or how to get something. That sense of release from worry is what justice feels like to me. But I'd love for you to take those thoughts home with you and consider them carefully. If you can picture what the future is that you're working towards, it becomes a reality every day. Every single thing that you do can lead you towards that future. For us here at the Kroc School, peace is much more than the absence of war, and that's a really important concept. Because some people say that war is human nature, it'll always go on. I'm not sure I agree. I think we've made tremendous evolutionary progress towards a world without conflict, violent conflict at least. But there's much more to peace than just that absence of war. And there's much more to justice than what happens in a courtroom. So we're looking at things in the Kroc School that include equal opportunity, transitional justice, what to do after a conflict, how to try to repair the harm that's done so societies can move forward, development so that countries don't move into conflict through a lack of resources, all kinds of things like that. We also face a lot of misconceptions as a School of Peace Studies. I almost wore my big, huge peace sign earrings today. I didn't anticipate this, but I thought the photo said it even better than I could. Do our students spend all their time like making banners and protesting? Or is this just an intellectual exercise where we read theories and discuss which one might be better? Or are we sending our students out to save the world? Or is peace something that happens in the halls of the United Nations? We have staff members who will be there next month with our women peacemakers at the Commission on the Status of Women. And yes, there's a tremendous amount of work that gets done there, but that certainly isn't the only place that peace is built or created. In many cases, it has to happen in our own communities. We know our own communities the best. We understand all the nuances, all the tiny little differences in culture. This is an example of Jean Mendieta, one of your Rotary scholars from Mexico, and she worked on a project where they created peace manuals that could be used by churches in Mexico within their own communities to try to encourage peace, reduce the violence, particularly gang violence and drug violence. And she was able to do that because she is of that place. She is of those people, and that makes it a lot easier. But sometimes it's working with people who need additional resources, who need a third party, who need someone to bring something to the table that they don't have in their own community. And then the most important thing we can do is listen. Listen to those needs. Find out what it is that we can best help them with, not do for them, not do in spite of them, but help them with. This room is filled with change makers, really. And I know that because I've met some of you at previous peace forums, some of you are alumni that I've met over the years. But again, I'd like to get your involvement in this conversation. How many of you are working on addressing a social issue of some sort? It could be healthcare, human trafficking, poverty, homelessness. Put up your hand if you're working on some social issue in any forum. Religious forum, academic forum. Okay, I want you to leave your hand up if you've been working on this challenge for 5 years. Leave your hand up if you've been working on it for 10 years. Leave your hand up if you've been working on it for 20 years. And I'm going to take a guess there's somebody here who's worked on the Polio Campaign. I bring that up because I think the Polio Campaign is a remarkable example of the longevity that it takes to deal with social problems, the persistence that it takes. You have to hand it over from generation to generation sometimes, and it's something that Rotary has done remarkably well. But why do I talk about change making? I don't know which I like better, the picture or the quote. Some of you may know that USD has been designated a change maker campus, one of only 37 in the US and 7 other countries in the world. And this designation goes to institutions that have made a commitment to work collaboratively to make change making the new norm in higher education and beyond. And the question why? Because if we haven't solved the problem doing what we were doing before, doing more of it probably won't get us there either. Even the Polio Campaign has had social innovation after social innovation after social innovation, come up with new cold chains, you've come up with new ways of delivering the vaccine, come up with new ways of partnering with government and even rebels and other groups that you have to partner with to get vaccines everywhere they need to be. So we find that social innovation unlocks a lot of untapped potential. This is why we've created the Masters in Social Innovation. It's going to be a one-year program, 9 months actually, so that we can get international students in. It will make it more affordable for them, both in terms of time, in terms of what they're giving up in their careers, and in terms of money. It's packed with interdisciplinary classes, so how to analyze global challenges, design thinking, program analysis, finance and accounting, program assessment, and interesting electives as well. And when we talk about barriers, I don't think there's any wall that you could build on the Mexican border that might be stronger than the walls that exist between disciplines in a university. Sometimes trying to get the anthropologist to talk to the economist to talk to the nursing school, it would take more than our State Department. But that is absolutely necessary, and it's happening here, and it's happening willingly as faculty see the progress that can be made when they're working with their colleagues from other departments. I'm going to give you an example of one of the ideas that came out of the Social Innovation Challenge. A student was working on the issue of homelessness in San Diego. And one of the things, everybody's looking for housing, and that's really important, but one of the things she found out was that malnutrition was a real problem for the homeless here in San Diego. They tend to get pushed off into areas where there's very, very few food stores. There aren't even fast food restaurants in these areas. They get pushed off into industrial areas, places that they can sleep without being rousted all the time. And so she developed an idea for a food truck that would not only take CalFresh, so that people could use their public assistance for the truck, but they hire those affected by homelessness to work in the truck and train them in food service. As soon as they're trained, they help them find jobs so they can bring different people in to train in the food truck. They provide healthy foods, healthy, delicious food. I mean, the point is to make this food something that really nourishes not just the body, but the soul. And they provide information on housing and mental health and other places that people can go for assistance from the truck. So they just got funding for a second truck. They're operating here in San Diego. And this is someone who said, this is a challenge, it needs a new solution, and not only that, we can take something that's happening elsewhere in society and simply move it over into this context for it to be really effective. If you ever have a chance to come to the Social Innovation Challenge final awards ceremony here, you can check our website for the dates, but it is a really fun, exciting day. We are in the process right now of accepting students for the fall program. This is one of our current students who's been doing a lot of work with EVMED in Mexico. But if you look at the faces on the screen, you see the incredible diversity that we have. And that's really important for people to share solutions. But we're trying to admit a student from Erbil this fall. She lives about 50 miles from Mosul. She's a computer science student, and she's looking for ways that she can combine technology with peace building. If she makes it here, this spring, she'll be able to meet with over 50 computer technology researchers and practitioners who are focused on the combination between technology and peace. We have an event called the California Consensus for Peace Through Technology. And people are doing things we would never imagine. Like, one of the models is a predictive model for coups and revolutions and outbreaks of violence. Looking at 1,000 different variables, they're able to predict pretty accurately now when a major incidents of violence can occur, and that allows people to try to intervene before that happens. There's also, this is a model of illicit gun sales all over the world. One of our faculty members is tracking the prices, and we're going to begin to be able to see if prices are going up, what does that mean? If prices are going down, what does that mean? And this is all being done by data scraping. It's not like there's receipts on illicit gun sales, but he can tell by ads that are being offered, by social media, all kinds of things like that. So I'd like to close with something from one of our students, Rotary scholars from China, Joan. She's part of a real movement of change in China, and she sent me a letter right before the Rotary Forum along with this photograph. And I'm just going to use her words if you don't mind. I can't believe it's been 8 years since I graduated from the Kroc school. Thanks to the rigorous academic training there, I was able to apply the theory I learned to address complex challenges in the nonprofit sector in China. Upon graduating, I joined Habitat for Humanity in China in 2009, first as a program manager and then promoted to the representative of Shanghai. As one of Habitat's founding staffs in the Shanghai office, I was involved with its legal registration, which was sensitive and strict due to its international background. I took the lead in managing the project from family selection, contractor searching, construction, volunteer engagement, to its final handover to the families. I also coordinated with government, foundations, and corporate partners to raise funds for the projects across mainland China. and I worked with NGOs to provide capacity building for other organizations like ours. In 2015, Joan went on to work for NYU Shanghai in a position very similar to mine. And this was the first project that was actually certified for an American university or any international university and a Chinese university to work together. So she's on the forefront of bringing the kind of collaboration to China that we're really working on here. And I think when you look at the range of activities that she was working on, you can see why it's so important for change to happen, for people to have extraordinary breadth in their experience, the ability to look at a problem, see what's been done before, imagine the future, and do it a different way. So thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for all you're doing to create change. We really welcome your participation.